Africa has become the wildest urbanizing region of the world, with rural migrants moving into cities a clip that has even outdone that of China and India. As the continent becomes one of the final frontiers of the fourth industrial revolution, this rapid transformation presents big challenges, but also offers big rewards for countries willing to risk billions in infrastructure building revolution, unlike anything the world has seen before. And no country has answered Africa's call quite like China. Given current progress in the global economy, especially Brexit and the Trump administration's America First policy, it's worth assessing how Africa's three largest commercial partners, China, the European Union, and the United States, are likely to impact the region soon as it associates to trade and investment trends. Hello everyone, welcome to World of China, a channel to explore the blazing issues of China. In today's video, we are talking about China and the USA's investment game in Africa and what they're up to. So stay tuned with us and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The China in Africa story may be more familiar, but its complexity cannot be amplified. As China's national growth began to rise at the end of the last century, demand for natural resources and job creation forced China to look for markets abroad. Africa was a willing partner due to its plenty of assets and need for infrastructure development. China's role in Africa defies conventional stereotypes and punchy news headlines. China is both a long-established diplomatic partner and a new investor in Africa. Chinese investments on the continent include not only natural resources but also issues of trade, security, diplomacy, and soft power. China is a major aid donor, but the scope, scale, and mode of Chinese aid practices are poorly understood and often misrepresented in the press. Most analysis of Chinese engagement with African nations focus on what China gets out of these partnerships, primarily natural resources and export markets. Some studies have defined the impacts, positive and negative, that China's aid and investment policies have had on African countries. However, few analyses have approached Sino-African relations as a vibrant, two-way dynamic in which both sides adapt to policy initiatives and popular perceptions emanating from the other. In an attempt to describe the dynamic nature of Chinese-African relations, RAND researchers took a broad look at Chinese and African objectives in the political and economic spheres and how they work to achieve their goals. They examined the reactions of African governments and populations to Chinese engagement and evaluated how China modified its policies to support these often hostile responses. RAND also examined whether the United States and China are competing for control, access, and resources in Africa, and whether there might be chances for the two powers to cooperate in ways that advance their mutual interests, as well as those of their African partners. China's role on the African continent has been defined by the financing of more than 3,000 largely critical infrastructure projects, according to the Aid Data Project. China has extended more than $86 billion in commercial loans to African governments and state-owned entities between 2000 and 2014, an average of about $6 billion a year. In 2015, at the 6th Forum of China-Africa Cooperation, President Xi Jinping pledged $60 billion in commercial loans to the region, which would increase lending to at least $20 billion a year if that pledge is fulfilled. As a result, China has become the region's largest lender, accounting for 14% of sub-Saharan Africa's total debt stock, according to Foresight Africa 2018. In Kenya, for example, the volume of Chinese loans to the government is 6 times larger than that of France, the country's second largest lender. The FOCAC that'll be held in Beijing later this year is likely to continue this course of extending commercial loans for infrastructure projects. And while China's level of foreign direct investment, or FDI, is comparatively low, accounting for just over 5% of total FDI inflows into the region in 2015, two-way trade has grown 40 times over the last 20 years and now exceeds $200 billion. More recently, there has been a rush in Chinese private investment combined with a continued but more limited state engagement. A 2017 McKinsey study reports that more than 10,000 Chinese-owned firms are operating in Africa today, about a third of whom are involved in construction. French academic Thierry Perrault points out that the overwhelming majority of these enterprises are small and micro businesses. McKinsey also reports that Chinese investment in Africa frequently contributes to job creation, skills development, and the transfer of new technologies, practices more generally associated with Western business norms. As China works to achieve the Belt and Road Initiative, the largest public works program ever, The issue of China's commercial loans and the consequent debt acquired by African governments is likely to increase as a public policy concern. There is room to limit the contradictory consequences of these loans. China should reconsider transitioning toward a blended financing model based on Western and Chinese sources of financing for its support of Africa's much-needed infrastructure projects. In addition, Africa would benefit if China were to more actively open tenders to international competition as opposed to attaching commercial loans to the exclusive use of Chinese companies and materials on terms that are often vague. A larger share of grants as opposed to a singular dependence on commercial loans, even at concessional rates, would be in Africa's interest. Since 2000, U.S.-African commercial relations have been based on the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA, a non-reciprocal trade agreement that grants about 40 countries duty-free access for approximately 6,400 products to the U.S. AGOA has had a blended legacy, given its goal of growing Africa's export markets rather than building two-way trade and investment partnerships. AGOA has helped integrate trade and investment in the U.S.-Africa Policy Exchange and led to the creation of more than 1 million jobs directly and indirectly on the continent. However, only approximately 300 of the available product lines are used, and a relatively small number of countries, principally South Africa, Lesotho, Kenya, Mauritius, and Ethiopia, have taken advantage of the AGOA to establish a significant volume of non-oil exports to the U.S. At the same time, the EU's assertive free trade strategy and China's surge in trade and commercial loans have left the U.S. in need of a new commercial strategy. U.S. commercial engagement in Africa is fading. Over the last 5 years, U.S. exports to sub-Saharan Africa have averaged $19 billion. Two-way trade has fallen from a high of $100 billion in 2008 to $39 billion in 2017, largely due to U.S. energy self-sufficiency. China and the United States are among the most significant external stakeholders in Africa's peace, security, and prosperity. The African continent, with some of the world's fastest-growing economies, an expanding consumer base, and an exploding youth population, has recently witnessed intensifying China-US competition. In economic and trade terms, the United States is playing catch-up as Beijing has long ago passed Washington as the continent's largest trading partner and investor. While China considers Africa's adherence to the One China principle as the only political requirement for its engagement with the continent, the United States views greater democracy and rule of law in Africa as in the best interests of both. China's security presence in Africa pales in comparison with that of the United States. As Washington boasts an extensive network of military bases on the continent, while Beijing's peace and security engagement mainly involves multilateral UN peacekeeping operations and bilateral security cooperation, such as arms sales and training programs. Despite this, rising China-US competition doesn't necessarily crowd out shared interests or prevent closer coordination in specific areas. For example, market development, infrastructure building, anti-piracy, health capacity building, and so on. By defending off a senseless ideological contest, respecting each other's core interests in Africa, accommodating Africans' development aspirations and security concerns, Beijing and Washington can find more common ground than many believe. The United States and China may not be strategic rivals in Africa. The two countries could increasingly compete commercially if American businesses become more engaged in African markets. Such business competition would benefit African countries and advance U.S. interests. African governments might be able to negotiate more favorable commercial terms if they're not beholden to Chinese financing. African communities would benefit, as American companies are more likely than their Chinese counterparts to hire local laborers for skilled and unskilled positions, transfer industrial technologies to local partners, require humane working conditions, and contribute to initiatives that promote the health and welfare of their workforce. Such business practices would likely encourage Chinese enterprises to do the same to secure deals, compete in local labor and consumer markets, and enhance China's image in Africa. China's commercial appearance on the continent will continue to rise, raising the principal concern that China's significant role in addressing Africa's infrastructure debt could be compensated by its contribution to a new and ultimately unsustainable African debt burden. The EU will work to achieve its trade relationship, which will provide European companies competitive tariff advantages. In many respects, the U.S. Congress is driving U.S. policy toward Africa with its numerous and highly relevant parliamentary initiatives. However, until the executive branch provides diplomatic and policy leadership, the US-Africa partnership will not fulfill its considerable potential. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for watching the video. Give this video a big thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comment box. For more exciting videos, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon for notifications. I'll be back with another exciting video soon. Till then, check out our channel for more exciting videos and stay tuned.